But we certainly want to acknowledge and honor our visionary of the Overcomers Talk, none other than our pastor, Dr. Lincoln Coffey, and our assistant pastor, Prophetess April Coffey. We love you all. We thank you for the vision that you've had for this Overcomers Talk, and we look forward to doing more and more of this as the year continues. Amen. Amen. And without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce our co-host for today, none other than the lovely Dr. Elizabeth Jennings. Hello, Liz. How are you?
I am blessed. Thank you.
Good, good. And also, we are going to be speaking with none other than Minister Titania Clark. Yes.
Everybody.
And last but certainly not least is the beautiful Miss Minister Latoya Pettikin. Yes. So we are excited about today's show. We have had some great women's topics last month, and I know even as we go into October, we're going to be continuing with some of those things. But we touched on some pretty heavy things last month, ladies. We talked about mental illness or mental health awareness. We talked a little bit about breast cancer. So really some things that I think would be a good idea for us to revisit as we segue into our Women's Month edition beginning next week. Dr. Jennings, you want to kind of start us off on recapping us over some of last month's topics?
Yeah, I thought it was just amazing, the setup that we were able to really take our time and do that 3-part series on mental health, really diving into understanding what does that look like. We had some people who have experienced it. We had men, we had women who had testimonies that they were able to share, and not just a small portion of their journey, but really like follow them through. And it was so great to hear from youth how things have kind of worked out for them, what they struggled with, the professional help. We were able to bring professionals on to talk about that.
Yes.
And especially the debate between faith versus therapy. So many taboo topics that we really don't hear much in the church or in a Christian platform. I thought it was awesome that we were able to bring that to light and really just ask those questions that we can get clear and honest for to support people who would be struggling with those same things. So I really thought that was helpful. And then what I also thought was really good is we always talked about the problems, and when we talk about mental health, usually there's a stigma of negativity, but we were able to end it with the joy, the progress, the progression that those that Vic and Tamara, what they were going to be doing with what the journey they went through, and that's so important. Everyone has a story. When we talked about last week and breast cancer awareness and Minister Katrina and how she was so open and honest about her journey and what that story behind what that was for her. There's so many people who are experiencing that, but you don't have to stay there in the problem part of it, right? This whole show is about being an overcomer, and I loved how we were able to share that and highlight those people who have overcome and who are still overcoming things that come their way.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear of the victories that they had, because a lot of times that's what we want to hear. You know, a lot of us have struggles, but it's not really a testimony until you talk about how you overcame it. And I love the fact that on this show, we are focusing on real people facing real issues, right? And so we know mental health awareness is really a topic that we can go on and on about, right? Because it's how you reduce the stigma, it's how you reduce the myths, is by constantly talking about it and educating the community. And so I am very pleased that Vic and Tamara would be so open with us and would be willing to share their journey in spite of the stigma that may be associated with that, as well as with Minister Katrina Richardson, you know, that she would come forth. And so I think, like you said, today we're just gonna have like a recap, a girlfriend kind of talk about what that meant to us, you know, how were we encouraged? We certainly hope that you all, our viewers, were encouraged by the stories and you got some information and that you felt like you could overcome if one of those issues were a current fight you're in. But let's talk a little bit about how it made us feel and how we were inspired and encouraged by the testimonies of our guests.
I will definitely say that. I love the fact that it was so practical.
Yes.
It wasn't just, I had an issue and here I am today, but it's like, well, what did you do to get to where you are?
Yes.
And I think in a lot of things that we watch, we don't get that. And it was down to the nitty gritty and the details that was able to, for me personally, appreciate life more. And my health, like something that we just take for granted. Like just to be able to get up out of bed and just to get ready with no pain in your body, we take that for granted. And so listening to the breast cancer survivors and even coming from the doctor's point of view and having to witness and feel the emotions that their patients were having to go through, it just makes you more grateful. Like, I didn't have to experience that.
Yeah.
But, God forbid that you do have to, I can definitely overcome it. Like, it's very capable of being done. So.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those areas for me. Because of Overcomers, I actually did go and get therapy. It was actually a session on Overcomers, and I'm like, oh, maybe I need to get some therapy, because I've always kept the spiritual side of it up, but there was the practical side of therapy that was, it's not that the two were separate entities, the two should be joined together. I always believed that. I believe in therapy, and it was something that happened, that we talked about here on Overcomers, that made me realize, I've been missing a link. Just going and getting help. And it's, like you said, it's such a stigma associated with it. And we try to play like, oh, I'm okay, but are you really? And I love the fact that we've been asking that question. Are you really okay? And are you really doing something about where you are, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? It's like not focusing on one particular area, which is something that we really need to do in the community. Instead of pretending like we're okay and when in the back of it all we're struggling. We don't have to struggle alone. We don't have to struggle at all, but especially not alone.
Yeah. Especially in the community of believers.
Yes.
Because we spend so much time strengthening up our spiritual life, which is what we should do, right? But in doing that, sometimes we do neglect our emotional well-being. We do neglect our just our natural and physical well-being as well, and that's not required of us.
No.
God doesn't require that of us. And so that's why it's so important that we talk about those things so that we don't be deceived, because how good are we going to be even spiritually if emotionally I'm bankrupt, if emotionally I'm fragmented, if emotionally I'm unstable? If I'm unstable. And so let's talk a little bit about that. And Dr. Jennings, I know you deal quite a bit with being emotionally well, through some of your books and your teachings. And so let's just talk a little bit about how important that is to be emotionally well.
Yeah, me personally, I have been going through my own family crisis. We're now, on the uphill of it, but starting in the end of May, beginning of June, with my son, kind of having some emotional and mental breakdown. And during that time, even though I help other people, I realized that it was really weighing on me more so than what I was able to show up for. So I reached out at that point for a counselor, and I have been seeing that counselor weekly since the beginning of June. And I can truly say that along with my spiritual health, really addressing my mental health and having that weekly session has really allowed my mood, me to be honest about what's really going on, me to go from a point of where I found myself is kind of having going into depression and having a lot of anxiety. Those were the things that I could realize that I was dealing with personally. And so I realized that I needed to address those. And so yes, I was praying, but I also needed to have some practical tools taught to me. Even though I help other people, it's the most awesome saying that I've heard is, when you are in the picture frame, it is so hard to judge what's going on.
Yeah.
And so when you're able to have someone else with different eyes look at that picture frame, they're able to really kind of critique it in a way that's positive, that's supportive, and really help you along. And so that's what I've learned that is. Having that counselor has become that critique that allows me to figure out these are areas that still need to be sharpened holistically in regards to every area of your life, so you're having balance, so that you're not breaking down, so that you're able to take the breaks when you need to, able to put yourself, back on that schedule, and so that you can function. And it has made such a world of a difference. There is peace within me. There is joy within me. We are still going through this journey, but it has definitely kind of helped with that. And so I just want to encourage everyone as we talk about this to really, when we think about our emotional health, a lot of times it's one of the things that we put on the back burner. It's one of the things that we don't really want to talk about when we start dealing with what we talked about, those areas of depression, anxiety, insecurities, sadness. It doesn't even have to be those big words, because it starts at a lesser level, right?
Yes.
And so really understanding when you do a self-assessment of what your emotions look like, how am I feeling today? you know, what am I needing today to really feel my soul, my spirit, my emotions? And we start asking those practical questions, we're able to either realize I don't know and I need to get some help. We're able to talk to a girlfriend about this, our spouse about this. We're able to engage our children in these conversations. It really does expand that when we do what we're doing right now, everyone, is communicating.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you started with mood. I love that you said mood, because we tend to belittle that. You know, you're just being moody today, or I'm in a mood today, and not really understanding that may be an indicator of more things that's trying to come upon you. You know, because we just dismiss, you know, even on social media, I'm in a mood, you know, they put up these little things about mood. And sometimes we trivialize things, not intentionally, but we get so common with it that we don't even assess something as simple as our mood. Like, why do I feel this way today? What's triggering it? Especially if I just woke up. I just woke up in a bad mood. I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. No, you didn't. You didn't just do that. Something triggered that. Something is going on internally or externally around you that's feeding into that. And we have to take a moment to say, what is it? But we get so busy. We get so busy and we just rush past it, especially as women of God. We got a lot of things going on. We're ministers, we're mothers, we're wives, you know, we're working in the ministry. A lot of times we're business owners, we're our employers, and then we don't stop to say, what is this mood about? I have definitely been guilty of that, and just go right through it. And then you wonder why your whole day is off.
Just off kilter.
Because you didn't deal with your mood.
I know when my dad died, I rapidly got back into my normal routine, and then my birthday came around, and it was a few months later, and I started to just sink into this hole, and I could not figure out what was going on. And my dad was big on birthdays, so when my birthday came around, it triggered to the fact that I just kept going past, and I would wake up the entire month of May like, and I'm like, you just got up, what are you irritated about? Maybe you just need to go into prayer. But when I came out of prayer, I was good for a little while, and then I'd be sitting at my desk flooded with tears, and I said, okay, Toya, you need to deal with this, because you can't override that emotion. We tend to do that so often because we are so busy. That was something that the second counselor I saw, because I saw one counselor for one thing and another therapist for something else. And she said, you know, you need to stop overriding that emotion. You need to stop pretending like it's not there. It's there. You need to do something about it. What is it that's causing you to feel that way? And I had to dig deep in to find that there were a lot of things that I wish I had done with my dad, or wish I had time to do with my dad. And it was the remorse of not having those opportunities. But I never would have gotten to that place if I didn't take the time to dig for it. And I would have been carrying that around like a weight, and carrying it around, and before you know it, that mental, emotional weight would have become a physical weight. And it would have affected me physically, because I was always tired at the time, just for no reason, just lethargic, couldn't get my energy up, but emotionally I was tired, you know, and so it affected me physically as well. I didn't want to play with my baby, nothing. But those things, they're triggered, they go from one thing to the next. If you're not paying attention, it's going to cause it's downhill spiral for you if you don't really like pick up on it and see that.
And at the home that I do home health care, and I work with special needs kids. And this particular daughter that I work for, I've been with her for like 2 years. And the mom is usually so vibrant and talkative and just, how you doing? Oh my goodness, you know, tell me about her day and stuff. And it was like a few weeks ago, she came in the room, she said hi, worked, you know, did whatever she had to do with the baby, and was like, all right, have a good night, and left. And so I'm sitting there like, well, okay, well, what did I say something? Did I do something? And it's running through my mind. And so I end up taking a vacation, leaving for 2 weeks and coming back. And I said, I want you to tell me if I do something or say something that rubs you the wrong way. And she looked at me like, why would you say that? I said, because you shut me all the way down and I didn't know what was wrong. And she said, my apologies. She said, I found myself where I shut down because I'm so busy and I'm so tired. And I try to verbalize this to my husband, and he does not understand. She's a stay-at-home for 4 kids, and one of them are special needs. And when she doesn't have a nurse in the home, she's up sometimes 24, 48 hours taking care of 3 other kids, her special needs baby, and her husband, trying to maintain a household. And so watching that, I remember it brought back to when me and you had met a couple years ago. And I was telling you, I feel so busy, like I can't catch my breath. And one of the things you said was like, you need to stop. Before you transition into the next thing that you need to do, before you get out the car, before you get in the car, whatever it is that you're doing, stop and take a few minutes. Release for that moment. Give your mind, give your spirit, give yourself time to end that project and get ready to shift into your next project. And then I had to take in what Pastor April taught us about speaking in tongues. Like, you got to utilize all the tools that you have. So yeah, I took that moment, but I also gave myself the time to build up my emotional side, my spiritual side. Because, okay, I'm about to change hats. Let me go in, focus. I might be dog tired, but let me pull whatever strength that I can pull so I can get through this next moment. Even if I'm late, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, it makes a world of a difference just for you to take that self-care for yourself so you can show up for where you're needed at.
Yeah, that's really good. So that highlights just a term that I use a lot, and I'm certified in mindfulness. And what that looks like for us as women, as human beings, is being able to be aware of what's going on in your present moment. Sometimes we're so busy that we really don't think about what is going on right here, right now. What is going on with some of the things we talked about with my body, what is going on with my mind, what is going on with my spirit, what am I missing? And so a lot of women especially, we don't take the time, and we probably never have gotten to know who we truly are in different seasons of our lives. Because the person that, we might have been a year ago is not the same person we are, this year. And so the things that we used to do, the way we used to fill our tank, the way we used to refuel, that may have changed. And so I really like the way when we talk about mindfulness, a beauty of it and a positive of it and a necessity of it, it allows us to be mindful of what we're needing in this season of our lives to fill us up. And so maybe we can talk a little bit, because I hear us talking about, the emotional side of it. You mentioned the spiritual side of it, but really thinking about holistically, how can we as women fill our tank up? Let's talk about the physical side of it, right? A lot of us, some people enjoy physical activity and making sure that's a part of their routine. Not everyone, because when we think about busyness, a lot of times the physical part gets pushed away along with the emotional side, right?
Yes.
But when we think about our bodies are meant to be engines that are fueled, and movement. When it comes to nutrition, those are things that really fuel our bodies. But when we have women who have busy lifestyles, how can we be intentional about fueling our physical health and working on exercise and nutrition? What are some suggestions we can kind of throw out there?
I would say I think the Lord was preparing me for this. Because I was working out initially, like the beginning of this year, of course, fell off. And God got on me, and he was like, I need you to start taking care of your temple, because I'm there. And he said, just do 10 minutes a day. And so I was always waiting for I feel like working out today. If we wait for that, it's never going to come.
Yes.
And we're never going to do it. So I just had to be disciplined in my mind. Once I get off work, I'm going to walk 10 minutes, if that's just around the block. While I'm in my 10 minutes, I'm going to listen to some motivational, messages from YouTube, from Les Brown. I like him. I tend to listen to him. And just to help get my day set. Even though I'm getting ready to go to sleep, my mind and my spirit is already like, okay, when she gets up, this is what we about to do, X, Y, and Z. And so I noticed, even with just committing 10 minutes a day, my energy level came up. And then I said, well, I want to see my progress. So I started marking on my calendar, and it does something on the inside of me. I'm like, oh my goodness, I went for my walk today. Now I'm at 30 minutes with my walk.
Awesome.
Now I've incorporated doing some strengthening and conditioning. And it's an every day, I promise. I don't think I've had one day where I'm like actually looking forward to it. But every day other than that, it's been, I don't feel like it, but I still do it anyways. And my stress level, it's come down. My eating habits, it's changed. I noticed that I'm more focused throughout the day. Stuff that I need to get done, I'm getting it done. So it's just pushing past what you feel. If you're waiting for the I feel like it, it's not gonna come. You just have to make your decision up. I'm gonna do it in the rain. I've done it in the rain. I'm not letting nothing stop me.
That's good.
And I use that time too to kind of hear from God and talk to God. And God said, if you're called to the nations, I have a problem if you can't keep up with me.
Yeah.
That's
Because
good.
just taking vacations and going from this plane to that plane, walking through the airport, then I get home, I'm drained. He said, but if I want you to do business and I want you to go and market it and I want you to talk to this group, but you can't keep up with me, I have a problem with that. Because now I have to slow down, wait for you to catch your breath in 2 or 3 minutes when you should have been taking care of your temple and you can stay up with the moment that I have you in.
Good.
That is
Love
good.
it. I love it. You touched on so many good points there. Let's
she
do a
certainly-
round table and then we'll like.
Made me think about the fact that I fell off like big time between August and right now, just because a lot of transition took place in my home. But it is vital because I know when I was consistently working out, it made me put myself on a routine because I had to make time for the workout. And I had to make time that everything else got done when the workout could take place, because otherwise, then everything just falls out of order.
Yes.
And so I like the fact that when I was working out, thanks T, when I was working out, it made me feel like I had a rhythm.
Yes.
And I had a rhythm to my thought process when I woke up in the morning. I knew what was going to happen. I knew what to expect, even though, of course, things would come up. You know, that's how life is. But there was an expectation to the day. And I started the day with that anticipation of, okay, this, and it just invigorated me. It made me feel so alive and awake. And even though some mornings I would wake up feeling very sore, tired, you know what I'm talking about. It still made me feel like, wow, I must have really done something yesterday to make my body feel like that today. And I knew that something was happening and I wasn't doing it in vain. And it made me feel motivated. It honestly did. I wasn't just motivated to exercise. I was motivated to do so much more. Like, my energy went up playing with my son. He's 3, and he outpaces me like 5 steps. And I'm like, slow down.
Everybody.
You know, I
Yeah.
even took him to the park more. I found that I had the energy to sit out there in that sun and run around the park with him. And so it's definitely important to take care of your temple and to pay attention and listen to when your temple's speaking to you. Because
Yes.
there's times when our body's talking to us and telling us, oh, you notice how slow you're getting right now, you're sluggish. There's something going on.
Yeah.
But we, even with the emotions, we override that too. And pretend like, oh, I know, my pants don't fit the way it used to, but let me just put another pair on. No. Baby girl, that button don't work. Need to figure out why that button don't work. Oh, goodness.
I am so not looking forward to it being my turn. to talk about Yeah, because I too stopped, this whole stop and go. This whole stop and go. Was training with a beautiful group of young ladies.
Listen.
Was being encouraged, was being held accountable. And as most of us do, life gets busy. But that's what life does.
Yeah.
That's what life does. And then life got busy for me. And new things started being presented. And I had to make time and space for new things. And if I'm honest, one day I woke up in a mood. That's why I'm saying it's so connected. Because even though I had a momentum, even though I was seeing the progress, even though I was feeling the progress, I had a mood that came upon me and I didn't deal with it. I didn't deal with it. I just overran it, and it eventually caught up with me because the mood does not come to give you energy. This mood didn't. This mood didn't come to energize me. It came to deplete me, right? And because I did not deal with it, because I did not take the time to emotionally deal with what the mood was, then it began to kind of overtake some things. And one of the things that it overtook was that part of my life where I was dealing with the physical temple, right? Because the mood came over, and then it took me into a emotional binge.
Yeah.
Now it took me into an emotional binge. So I'm doing old habits that are contrary to the new habits I'm trying to form, because I'm trying to feed the mood now, right? And so now I'm so way off, but that's why the emotional part is so important.
Yeah.
Because if we skip the step and we don't deal with it, somewhere else we pay for it.
Yes.
It costs us somewhere else along the line. And while we serve a God that will let us begin again, it's difficult to begin again.
Yeah.
Yes.
It hurts.
It's difficult to start over. But it is still required of you, Jeffries. It is still required, even though it's hard. But it just makes me think back to the whole mood thing, like I said, and even when I heard Minister Clark say something about just the 2 to 3 minutes, because sometimes we think if I don't have a whole hour to recalibrate, I can't do it. And like she said, it's 3 to 5 minutes. Just take a moment to stop. It made me even think about things we hear sometimes when you hear in the media about, you know, a parent running and left the child in the back of the car on accident. And then sometimes the fatality comes because of it, not because they were a bad parent, not because they were malicious, but didn't take time to close this one project before we go to the next.
Yes.
We didn't take 3 to 5 minutes to stop. Let me see what I'm doing. Let me gather myself and then move on. And so sometimes we have these situations because we wouldn't give ourselves the 3 to 5 minutes to deal with our emotions. And so I have been guilty of that, but I am encouraged through this Overcomers Talk show that I can begin again, because it is important that we take care of our temple.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And thank you all for your transparency on this topic. I'm going to be transparent too. Like, I know myself. I know that I live a very busy life, and I have realized that for me, accountability is key. And so my accountability looks like me realizing that I work really well having a trainer attached to me when it comes to my physical health. And so same thing, I told you guys when June hit, I knew a lot was coming, and I knew I needed to have my physical health because I knew it was an attack that the enemy was doing. So at that point, along with my counselor, I reached out to one of my hardest trainer and was like, can you take me back? Because I need help. And he was like, I am not taking new ones, but I will take old clients. And he has been on this journey with me, and that has helped me making the investment in myself. But I want to pause for a little bit to talk about the importance of being willing to make even a financial investment in yourself, because it was a sacrifice. When all this happened with my son, I had to pull back from a lot of employment. And so, you know, of course, the first thing in my mind is, do I have the money to take care of this? You know, what am I going to do? This touches on a little bit of our spirituality too, because I had to really remember whose I am, right? I am the daughter of a king who loves me, who wants me to take care of my temple. And sometimes that means that if I know mindset-wise that I'm going to struggle, then I need to do what it's going to be to keep me accountable to myself, to my health. And that's what that looked like for me. And so I had to say yes to the financial commitment, and I don't regret it because, you know, I feel better. I have the endurance. There may be times where there's a day where I'm tired and I can't, you know, do 5 days a row, but I'm gonna like do my 2, or I'm gonna see him the next week, and I know I'm gonna have to report what's been going on. And so there's something about having accountability, whether it be a trainer, whether it be if you have a friend or a partner that's your accountability partner and you're just touching in with communication, that really helps us to get back on the wagon when we've fallen off. And so I just wanna highlight that and talk about the importance if you are struggling with either your physical, your mental, your emotional, and just on your own feeling like it's just hard for me to do it, find those accountability partners. The main thing that we're doing right now, which is to me helping all of us, is communicating, is being honest, right? Is not like putting on this facade about, no, we got it all together, or, you know, there's highs and lows, because that's what life is like. And the thing is to never give up. You know, as long as there's breath in your body, you can always start again. You can always try again. You can always say, from this day forward, I'm gonna get back on the wagon and figure out what might have kept getting me off, and how can I improve that? And you may not know on your own. So having a community, a safe community where you can talk about that, where you feel like you are supported, matters so much for each and every one of us.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to talk about besides our physical health is nutrition. When we talk about nutrition, because I know I want to really hit on this. For some of us, we have busy lifestyle and it's hard to eat right? Meal prepping is so important. And so when we think about that schedule, if we can take time to find a way to meal prep, to find a way to go to a meal prep system that may support us, purchase food that's healthy, that we're planning, it makes a really big difference for our health and our energy also. So I just wanted to throw that out there while we talk about physical health also.
That is a great part. We're gonna get prepared to take a quick moment to have our commercial break. But I really want us to start right back there because I promise you, Dr. Jennings, as soon as you said meal prep, I'm like, girl, I don't want to do no meal prepping. I don't want to do meal prepping. But like you said, it may be just the thing to help you. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to us kind of talking about, because that's what we're here to talk about, the things, practical things that can help us to get onto the road of success. And while I don't really want to hear about meal prepping, I am open to hear the benefits of it. So if you guys can give us one moment, we'll take a quick break and then we'll return. Stay tuned and join us for the second half of Overcomers Talk.
The hit stage play, Prodigal, is coming to Austin's Grant Worship Center, November 13th. Audiences are saying this hilariously funny and dramatic stage play is a must-see. Starring Will Mullion as the prodigal.
You know, I am what I am. They don't see me as a valuable person. They just judge me or dismiss me.
And Brosco as the elder brother.
To save the world. If he could, he'd give everything for free.
And Austin's own Donald Harrell as the father.
He was the one that walked away and lost all our money.
I didn't realize we lost money.
Experience mind-blowing, sensational songs from powerhouse Tamara Champion.
He wants you, yes.
And the voice finalist, Rose Short.
Thank you, Father. Thank you, Lord. Tonight.
Doors open at 3 p.m. The show starts at 4 p.m. Get your tickets today at eventbrite.com and kzamore.com. That's eventbrite.com and kzamore.com.
Arms wide open, the Father's waiting to receive.
And welcome back to Overcomers Talk. So today we have been simply just talking about some of the things that we discussed for last month's show. Things such as mental health awareness, a little bit about breast cancer. As we ended, we were just talking about how to better take care of our physical health and some of the things that we should be doing. We may not like all of them, but we do know they have benefits. And so we're going to go right back to that. Dr. Jennings, before we went to commercial, you were talking about meal prepping and what that could look like and the benefits of meal prepping.
Yeah, you know, I really had to sneak it in there because I didn't want to miss it, but I'm so glad that there is a part two because I can just share a little bit before we talk about meal prepping of the importance of why nutrition is so important. You know, when we talked about our mental health series and we talked about breast cancer and we think about all the health ailments that can attack our bodies, understanding what we eat has a big part into how we're feeling, the energy that we have, the cancers that attack our body. We learned that foods, they're cancer-causing foods that we kind of eat. So we really have to be conscious of what we put into our temple. And so how do you do that? How do you focus on knowing the right things to eat, what's healthy for you? Well, you have to, it's mindset. And mindset is about planning. And planning is about, at times, a big chunk of that is meal prepping. Because if we're busy, all the things we talked about, if we're just going about our day, if we're not mindful or paying attention to what's going on, we're just gonna stop by that fast food restaurant, grab what we can, we're gonna go to the grocery store, pick what's quick and easy, and not really turn it over, read the back of the ingredients to see, what really am I eating? What am I putting into my body? Am I really fueling it, or am I just giving it something that's going to perpetuate me feeling more tired, right? Am I eating food that is high in sugar, that's, processed, and it's really gonna hurt my body and just for the moment give me a temporary fix, but in the long run, it's really just deteriorating my health and my future and shortening my life. And so when we get to understand that importance of it, then it makes it easier to comprehend or to adjust to the idea of meal prepping, hopefully. And for me, I've learned that because I do have a busy lifestyle, the only way that I can really make sure that I'm conscious of what I'm putting in my body is meal prepping. And so what this might look like for some of us is picking a few days of the week. It might be the weekend, where we can designate time to do that, to really maybe, think about what are the foods that I need to eat, not all want, right? That I need to eat that's gonna be healthy for my body. What are some ways that I can make this meal prepping interesting, that I can find foods that, I can put some healthy herbs, some flavor to it that's healthy, but that's still gonna give me the energy to kind of be able to do what I need to do. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about when it comes to like looking at our schedule and the idea of how to make meal prepping fun.
Well, I think the Lord prepared me for this too.
Go ahead.
I used to eat a lot of junk food because it was like I love sweets. I did. And it actually costed me in the long run because I had to get a root canal. And even with insurance, I said, wait a minute, I'm putting my whole mortgage in my mouth. So some of the things that we end up having to deal with as a consequence, it is a big reality check. And so the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result.
That's good.
So even if you just make small adjustments, because sometimes meal prepping, it can be a little costly. So just start somewhere small. If it's like, okay, instead of getting the ice cream and getting the cupcakes, get some fruit. Just make the small increments in your diet change. And then eventually you'll be able to actually make a budget for where you can meal prep. Even if it's just for 3 or 4 days, I'm telling you, you save so much money. Because I would be eating out breakfast, lunch, and dinner, eating out. And I'm like, I honestly could take one day and make a whole meal for what I was spending and actually feel a little bit more full because I don't know what they put in the foods nowadays compared to the 1990s when McDonald's was real McDonald's. But the food is different.
It is.
And so when I noticed I just started making those little changes,
That's good.
my energy, it changed. It came up along with, the physical exercise. So it's just the little things that you try to do, it makes a huge impact later.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna be real, right? Because the Burger King I had before we came on the show, it does not align with healthy eating. Let me just say that. I'm gonna be real. I am a healthy eater though. Like I've always been. She's laughing at me because I love fruits and vegetables, but I grew up eating fruits and vegetables. It's all we knew. Like we didn't. Burger King and McDonald's was like, oh, we did good. This is like
a treat.
Every few months thing.
Yeah.
My mom, she has 6 kids. She was not about to play that game, okay? And so it's a lifestyle. It is definitely a lifestyle. It's not a fad. I know meal prepping is not a fad, but the way you eat, it has to become a part of your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I know some people, they think I'm crazy because I like salads without salad dressing on it, or I just could eat fruit and be content. And I could go without the extra. Now, the ice cream is a struggle for me. I will tell you that. So now I have to purposely not buy it because if I don't have it in my house to eat, I'm not gonna drive and get it. But if I don't have it in my house to eat, then I won't eat it. Let's not talk about the ice cream that's in my house right now. But it's still, it's a healthy balance. It's a healthy balance because instead of eating like, things that go in the microwave, I do buy more things that you have to cook. And because I'm frugal, not cheap, but frugal, I don't like to waste food, right? So I make sure to use all of the ingredients for my salads and all these other things. Minister Titania's always laughed at me because she's like, this all you got to eat. Like, yes, eat some grapes, eat an apple, or, you know, and it's definitely something that you have to incorporate into your lifestyle. You have to see it as when you go into the grocery store, don't go into the aisle where everything's in a box. Go down to the aisle where things are like where the produce are, and they have the fruit and the vegetables. You have to actually cook it or prepare it in some way. And it's not easy because, you know, fruits and vegetables, of course, is probably the most expensive thing in the store. But it's still just bring a balance to it. Buy a bag of apples instead of a bag of chips. Or 2 bags, I don't know how much chips.
And I love how you said lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle. And you have to change your mindset, not to just think of it as a quick fix, a diet. In 60 days, I'm going to drop, you know, 200 pounds. But it took you a process to get in the condition that you're in.
Yeah.
It's going to take a process to get you out.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
That's very true. That's very true.
I'm not gonna say too much.
Yeah, because you were behind us in the line, but we ain't gonna talk about that.
I can't say too much about this. But I think it's important that we as women, that we do give some attention to our bodies, you know. Because even on the break we were talking about, because how we take care of our bodies impacts other things that we expect our body to do for us, you know, such as childbearing, right? And things to that nature. All of that's affected by how we take care of our body. You know, we know many women, some women have issues with fertility and things like that. And sometimes it is weight related. Sometimes it is related to the type of things we're doing in our body, and that once we take care of those things, then our body can perform more efficient. Our body can perform as God has designed it to do. And so I know through the break we were talking about, even in our body, we have pain that we sometimes ignore, right? That we sometimes ignore, and we know when we ignore it, and it's sometimes we do that with pain, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually. We just don't like it. We just don't like it. But pain indicates something is wrong.
Yeah.
Pain indicates there's something that we need to give some attention to. And sometimes we don't do that. And I know even with the breast cancer awareness and things like that, the doctors will tell you one of the indicators is pain, right? You need to be checking your body. So even as we transition to kind of talk a little bit more about our bodies and pain, physical pain, let's talk a little bit about how we've had some personal experiences with that and how that may have taken us down the road we didn't necessarily want to travel.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. When we think about pain, you know, we can have it. It can be several different reasons, right? And sometimes understanding, you know, our body, pain could just be a sign of, it could be a sign of inactivity. When we aren't moving like we need to, we realize our joints, we realize our body. You know, I want us to really talk about it, because yes, sometimes it can be related to a medical, but sometimes it can be the very basis of, I need to stretch, I need to get some blood flow going in my body. And then you feel like, oh, I just feel different. Like, because I remember that prior to getting that trainer, you know, I had gained some weight and was just realizing my body was just aching. And then once I started moving, it just felt better. And then anytime I go through periods, like 2 weeks, if I hadn't done as much as I need to, I will always realize my joint starts bothering me, my knees, my back, areas that I've had before. But when I start moving, it gets better in that area. So, you know, that's not the only thing, but definitely that's a start, because I realized that a lot of clients that I coach, when I talk to them and they say that they go to their doctor, one of the first things that the doctor will ask is, have you been moving? Have you been, you know, getting physical activity? Because it's kind of like a checklist that you go through to kind of look at, to assess maybe what's going on with your body. So, you know, that's initial, but it's not the only thing. And I think we are talking about, you know, what if you're having this consistent pain that you kind of know, wait a minute, something is not right. It's been here for a while. I'm noticing something that's been growing or aching. We shouldn't always put it under or just, you know, ignore it or expect that it's going to go away if it's being consistent. It's so important to assess that, because it could mean there is something growing underneath. If we were to address it earlier, then we could get a simpler treatment, where if we don't, it could lead to something that could be more severe, whether it be dental work, or whether it be physical health type ailment. So, you know, that's really important.
So I think I mentioned briefly about the time I went through an ectopic pregnancy. And I can talk about that now because we've talked about it before, but I realized that the consequence of me ignoring pain was more long-term, because if I had I had pain for days prior to having surgery done, but I ignored the pain. I kept going because I was so used to my cramps being so horrible anyway. Oh, this is just normal pain. And it wasn't because I was in pain that I went to the doctor. I went to the doctor because I had a doctor's appointment. And the doctor said to me, do you know that you're bleeding in your abdomen right now? And I looked at him and I'm like, what? He's like, yes, you have to be admitted to the hospital. He's speaking French to me, someone's translating, and I'm completely like lost as to what are you talking about? Wow. But he said that your tube had ruptured because you have you not been in pain, is what he asked me. And I was like, yeah. He said, but you must have been in a lot of pain. And I said, yeah, but it was just pain. And that cost me my fallopian tube, a week in the hospital, really. And then I had to go and have another procedure done that was painful. And I had to go through recovery process after the fact. And now, because of me ignoring the pain, whereas I could have done something to prevent all of the after effects, you know, now I have to deal with so many different things when it comes to me going and seeing my gynecologist and all these other things that I could have prevented if I didn't ignore the pain. And it sounds like, oh, that's a special case, but we do it more than we realize, that we're not paying attention to it's a nagging, constant pain that you may have, and you're just not paying attention to it. You know, you're just saying, I have to go, I need to do this, I need to do that. I can't stop for a second and find out why it is that my knee keeps swelling every other day. I can't stop to find out why I have this constant headache. You might be dehydrated, but there could be something going on. And I know, like I always hear the phrase, prevention is better than cure.
Yeah.
And I think it's just something that we as women, we as a people, really need to start paying attention to. Like, stop ignoring the pain. Pain, like you said, pain is an indication that something is wrong.
And we always say it for the women, but even for men, because, you know, we know that sometimes men don't like to go to the doctors either. And sometimes, you know, I can remember even my own times with my own father, you know, when he was battling leukemia. And even though there would be pain, it was a battle to get him to address it and to want to have to deal with it. So I know we say women a lot of times, but like I said, it's just the community at large. We just don't like it. The men don't like it. You know, the women don't like it. We definitely know the kids don't. And they get introduced to it and from the time when they get shots, and they're so afraid of the pain that is to come. And so we learn from a very young age to fear the pain, which makes us not really want to deal with it. But, you know, on this show, we're talking about being victorious, right? And many people have come and sat across this stage and told us how they did deal with the pain and how they did overcome it. And now they're living victorious lives, right? And that is something we certainly want to celebrate. Even the guests that we had, we saw Vic and Tamara talk about how victorious they are now because they did have to face that pain head on, whether it was mentally, whether it was emotionally, whether it was physical, that they did have to face that pain. And now they're celebrating, and now they can be a testimony to others who may be on a similar journey to overcoming. And so that's one of the things I want us to kind of talk about, even as we segue on how we may have felt like this show. I mean, we've all been a part of this show, and even when we weren't maybe up here hosting, we were still gleaning from it. And there's been many topics since the inception of this show. And one of the things I'll start with is, you know, some of the things that this show has helped me overcome. Like, really one of the things that I am closer to that I never really probably considered was being open to counseling. Because on this show, we've talked about it so much. We've made it acceptable. We've talked about the benefits of it. We've talked about the victories that you can gain from it. We've talked about the emotional strength that can come out of it, you know. And so this show has really debunked the myths that I think I had regarding therapy, the myths or the stigma that maybe kept me out of it. And, you know, because, you know, when you're in church, you know, prayer is all you need, you know, and prayer is awesome. And even with counseling, we still need a divine intervention. It does not replace prayer, but it is a practical thing. And I know my eyes have been enlightened to that. And I have to believe there's been other viewers who've watched us too, who may not have had any real knowledge about it, but we've had great counselors come on the show. I mean, we've just done well, I think, on this show, really debunking some of those things. And so one of the things that this show has given me is the ability to reach out. Is the ability to reach out and know that not all fights you have to fight alone.
Yes. That's good.
That not all fights you have to do silently, you know, but that there is help out there. There is help right in our own community that is safe, that is confidential, and you can certainly benefit from it. So I'm grateful for the Overcomers Talk show because that has highlighted that for me.
Yeah, that's so good. And just to maybe tag along with that, for me, you know, I started as being a guest on Overcomers Talk, you know, sharing about my own personal journey of healing and being very vulnerable about some things that I had written in books before. You know, I was comfortable with that. I was comfortable with writing the books and people purchasing the books and, you know, touching on my story, but to actually like share my story on a platform, that was a different story. And so many people have a story, and you know, when we invite guests on to share their testimony, it takes courage to be able to get up here, to be able to, you know, talk to an audience or other people, to really like share your voice and feel empowered that someone's gonna listen and not judge you. So for me, I would honestly say that's been an overcoming thing for me, is learning how to be bold enough and courageous enough to share the journey. That it has not all been good, you know, but the process that I went through is what got me to this point. And the more I talk, the more I share, the easier it is to share more, to dig deeper, to pull back more layers. And as I pull back those layers, I heal more. And so for me, that's been the biggest overcomer, is a safe space where it's okay to, where my voice matters, where, you know, when I share it, I'm not just sharing it for me, but it's for a greater purpose, and it's helping other people along the journey. So that's what has been definitely a helpful and has done for me.
Well, I want to back up just a little bit. So we were talking about, you know, like pain, like physical pain, and you know, from a nurse, a pet peeve of mine is people self-diagnosing themselves on Google.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Invest in yourself.
Yes.
It's okay to invest in yourself. You deserve it. You deserve to go to a doctor. Granted, you may not have insurance, but there is free clinics, and you deserve to get the professional help that you need.
Yeah.
Physically, spiritually, connect with the church, emotionally, mentally, connect with a counselor, a life coach. But being on and watching Overcomers, it's like what you say, it's the level of transparency that I'm comfortable with expressing myself. I'm comfortable with being vulnerable, because being vulnerable nowadays is like a sign of weakness. And if you're vulnerable and you open up something that you're dealing with, you're not a strong person. But in reality, there are people going through so many different things at different intensities, at different degrees, that you wouldn't even imagine that. How in the world did you make it out of that? And so it releases that bit of hope and encouragement. Like, okay, if they did it, of course I can do it. And I feel like the sole purpose of this is being manifested. It's meeting the goal that the visionaries did intend for it to be.
That's awesome.
I believe it's desensitizing people to things, because, I mean, and not in a negative way, because sometimes we're so sensitive and touchy about things that we don't want to talk about it, but it's taking that away. It's taking that, no, that's taboo. No, we don't want to talk about breast cancer. We don't want to talk about depression. We don't want to talk about physical abuse or mental abuse. We don't want to talk about those things, because it's like, that's secrets. Those are secrets that we want to not tell anyone else about. We don't want anyone to know that we've been through anything. But the whole point of Overcomers is that you can talk about something and then hear that the person's been through it and they're out of it.
Yes.
They're on their way out of it and they see themselves out of it, or they're actually free from it and now they're helping other people come out of it. But until that's talked about, you're only gonna hear about what bad is happening. You know, it's very easy to talk about the negative things that's all around us, what's happening to us. But what about the victories, the things that we've actually been able, the good? And I love the fact that Overcomers highlights the good. It doesn't make it seem like, oh, it's all a bed of roses all the time, but there is a good side to the end of it. There's always light at the end of that tunnel. And just knowing that you're not going down that tunnel alone, that you're not the only one with that story. You're not the only one with that struggle. You're not the only one with that, that area in your life that you may have had to face. And you do have a team. You do have a team. I told Minister Titania today, it's a team sport.
Yes.
You know, she thought it was funny, but I was being serious because she needed help with something. I'm like, no, it's a team sport. Like, you have to trust your team.
Yes.
And you have to know that you have a team.
Yeah.
And that's what Overcomers is. It definitely lets you know that you have a team.
Yeah.
I think that is awesome because, like you said, it does take courage to sit up here and become vulnerable, right? To critics and to other things, but it is so worth it. It really is, because like you said, it shows you your own strength, and then it really strengthens someone watching, because we know one of the tricks of the enemy is to always make us feel like it's only you.
Yeah.
You're the only one who went through that. You're the only one feeling that way. You're the only one who think like that. You're the only one who's experienced that. And when you watch Overcomers and you partake in it and you learn from the community, you realize I'm really not alone.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm really not. I can remember my early days as a wife. I can remember feeling like I must be the only one going through this. Because on the outside, you see other couples and they holding hands and they this. And when I was having issues in my own marriage, I remember feeling like it's only me.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It is only me. And so when you hear others who talk about things, not to highlight their weaknesses, but to really discuss, it gives somebody else hope. As a young wife, somebody gave me hope to make me think I wasn't completely failing at this, right? That the challenges that I was going through, or some of the things I was feeling, didn't make me abnormal, didn't make me weird, didn't make me a horrible new mom, or because I didn't know how to do something, So I love this community. I love that, as we say on there, real people overcoming real issues.
And I want to share this. So a couple of weeks ago, we had the Friends and Family Day where we went to the lake. And they had a dunk pool, and in my mind, I said, I'm not getting in that water. I'm not doing it. Got my cute wig on.
It was cute too.
I'm not getting in that water. I had plans, and God had other plans. And Minister LaToya showed up with a spare set of clothes because he knew what I told him before I left the house. I said, I'm not getting in nobody's water. So I get there, and I was like, that's okay, I'll just buy myself out. They were like, no, if you buy out, somebody can buy you back in. I was like, well, listen, I ain't got that much money. So let me go and get in this water. So I get in the water, I get dunked a few times, and my wig came off. So I had to put on a hat. Toy, she was my backup. Put on the hat. And I said, okay, let's continue on with the festivities, and then I end up getting pied in the face. And so I was driving home, and I said, God, I feel so vulnerable before them people. I feel bare bone, like they just saw me. And he said, I need you to be in that place. I need the people not just to see you as a minister, I need them to see Titania.
Yeah.
And the next day, I came so liberated and so free, because I'm like, listen, if my wig fall off, y'all already know what I look like. It ain't gonna be no shock. But being able to be vulnerable, it releases a level of liberty
Yes.
and freedom
Yes.
that a lot of people don't even know that comes with being vulnerable.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Amen, amen. Well, this has been a great, great show today, ladies. And I love the fact that we're talking about issues that impact us, because even as we begin next week, we're going to be talking about issues that deal with women in particular. So a great segue from the mental health awareness. I'm glad we talked about that and we got a little bit built up in that, right? And we got some strength, because as we go into next month, we're going to be talking with some more challenges that sometimes we face. And one of those is our domestic violence series. So we're really going to be talking about that, and really going to have some people who, again, are going to share their stories and share their journey on how they overcame in that situation. And so we're really looking forward to that. We ask that you all would stay with us for the rest of the month of October, and that you would join us as we continue talking about women issues right here on Overcomers Talk. Remember, you can catch this again on Thursdays as well. And remember, you're welcome to join us. We're here on Sunday afternoons at 3 p.m. You can certainly come in and sit with us and be in our audience and ask us questions and be engaged with us. We certainly appreciate you being engaged online, but know that you're welcome to join us here at Open Fire Church, that you can be in our audience as well. As usual, we appreciate your time. We thank you for tuning in to another edition of Overcomers Talk, and we'll talk with you soon. God bless you.
God bless.
bye.